Morning, everyone. Honored to be joined today by Whip Catherine Clark and Caucus Chair Pete Aguilar as we prepare to depart for the August district work period. The Trump administration and House Republicans have been a complete and total failure. These MAGA extremists promised that they were going to lower costs in the United States of America. In fact, they promised the American people that costs would go down on day one. But costs haven't gone down. They are on the way up. Inflation is up. It's the quality of life of everyday Americans that is deteriorating. And Donald Trump and House Republicans are making things worse. The one big ugly bill will rip away health care from millions of Americans. Hospitals will close, nursing homes will shut down, community-based health clinics will be unable to operate, and as a result of the inability of everyday Americans to get the medical care that they need, people will die. This is a direct result of action taken by Donald Trump and House Republicans connected to the one big ugly bill. It's extraordinary that as we prepare to leave for the August district work period, what House Republicans can point to is a toxic and extreme Republican budget that will cause millions of Americans to be broke, sick, and hungry. That's the legislative accomplishment of House Republicans. And all of this was done to reward billionaires with massive tax breaks. The one big ugly bill is deeply unpopular. Donald Trump is deeply unpopular. And House Republicans haven't done a damn thing to make life more affordable for the American people. During the August district work period, House Democrats will hold events all across the country talking about our efforts to build an affordable economy that lowers the high cost of living in the United States of America, to protect the health care of the American people, and to combat the culture of corruption that exists in this town that undermines the ability to have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. We're looking forward to holding town hall meetings across the country at the same time that Republicans will continue to run away from town hall meetings. But we will fill the void that they are leaving and engage aggressively with the American people, all in service of building a country where everyone can experience the American dream. It's now my honor to yield to our whip, the Honorable Catherine Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. I am deeply grateful for your leadership over these last 6 chaotic months. And what a fitting end to these 6 months of Republican control in Washington. Instead of doing their jobs, instead of standing up for kids, for families, instead of standing on the side of transparency and accountability, Republicans are running away, all to avoid the release of the Epstein client list, all to cover up for pedophiles. In this hollowed out version of the Republican Party, they knock down people who work hard for a living. Their signature bill, the big ugly bill, kicked 15 million Americans off their health insurance, takes food from 16 million kids, raises energy bills, shuts down hospitals, denies veterans their benefits. They run up the debt to give tax breaks to billionaires, and they run out of town to hide sex crimes for the rich and famous. Well, Americans are sick of a system that looks at people who follow the rules and actually work for a living and puts them last. Right now, 60% of American households say they can't afford the basics. Most parents, 54%, say they will have to skip on groceries to afford school supplies this fall. You deserve better. Your family deserves better. And over the next 6 weeks, House Democrats will fan out across the country, listening to our neighbors, listening to our constituents. And we are going to make sure that Americans know it does not have to be this way. We can fight corruption. We can lower the cost of childcare. We can make healthcare and housing more affordable. We can build an economy that rewards the people who make it run, not the corporations who exploit them. We can have a Congress that prioritizes kids and families. This is the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. There is enough for everybody, not just to get by, but get ahead. If we give the American people the fair shot at success that they deserve. And there is no one who we'd rather be in this fight with, giving people the fair shot, making an affordable economy in this country, than our chairman, Pete Aguilar.
Thank you, Whip Clark, Leader Jeffries, for your friendship, but for your leadership of this Democratic caucus as well. This Republican majority is nothing short of a disgrace. They've spent the last 6 months lining the pockets of billionaires and wealthy corporations who are already raking in record profits. They prevented Democrats from rolling back reckless tariffs that are driving the price increases that we see under Donald Trump's watch. They're closing nursing homes, forcing grandma and grandpa to fend for themselves while making the purchase of a new private jet fully tax deductible. It's just cartoonish levels of corruption. Rural hospitals are already closing down because Republicans pushed through the largest cut to Medicaid in the history of the country. They've completely broken the bipartisan appropriations process and are leading us toward a government shutdown that will hurt hardworking Americans. We were elected by our constituents to solve problems and to get things done. But at every turn, the Republicans are choosing partisanship and division and chaos. Now they're fighting amongst themselves about how they should hide President Trump's involvement in the Epstein files. Over the next few weeks, House Democrats are going everywhere to talk about the devastating impacts of the Republican cuts to Medicaid and their inability to focus on the most pressing challenges that the American people face. Republicans are too scared to face their own voters and will probably spend the August recess on the run. Turn it over to Leader Jeffries.
Thank you, Pete. Questions?
Good morning. Senate Republicans seem to be torn about staying in session, about new nominees, and also going back to sell the big, beautiful bill from their perspective. Would it help Democrats if they were to stay in session so they couldn't sell and market that piece of legislation?
That's a decision for the Senate Republicans to make, as Chair Aguilar just indicated, as Catherine Clark has indicated. Republicans are on the run. They have nothing good to sell to the American people. The one big ugly bill hurts everyday Americans to reward billionaires and wealthy corporations with massive tax breaks. It is deeply unpopular. And that is why it's our expectation that during the August district work period, you're going to see House Republicans and Senate Republicans running away from the American people because they are running scared. That's right.
When you come back in September, you're going to have the shutdown fight. That'll consume most of the oxygen here. You said earlier in the week that if it's a partisan Republican bill, House Democrats will be united against it. You didn't mention the Senate. Do you have faith that that Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats will hold the line, given that they did not do so in March?
We had a very productive meeting with Senate Democrats yesterday, and I'm confident that the only path forward is for Republicans to work with Democrats to pass an appropriations bill that meets the needs of the American people in terms of their health, their safety, and their economic well-being. A partisan spending bill is dead on arrival. Catherine? These are our two appropriated bills.
Listen, the House Republicans and the Senate Republicans have a choice to make. It doesn't matter whether they, in the Senate, stay in session or go home. They cannot hide from the destruction that they have caused. We are looking at, with this largest cut to Medicaid in our country's history, not only will it have an impact on people who get their insurance through Medicaid, which is 40% of the children in this country, but there are now estimates that it will cause a almost 70% rise in insurance premiums for a family of four that makes $90,000. 70% increase in insurance? As the leader said, this was an administration that promised to lower costs on day one. And they cannot get away from the fact that they have made a terrible deal that goes against families in this country. And so we are going to be out there over the next 6 weeks, not only putting forth the high contrast of the disaster they are bringing down on family budgets across this country, but what we can do together to change the system so that it isn't rigged against families who work for a living, the 99.9% of us who don't benefit under the big ugly bill.
Mike, I think the question for Republicans here in Washington, D.C. is, what's your plan? You control everything, the House, the Senate, and the presidency. What's your strategy? Right now, they can't even agree amongst themselves. The Senate is marking up to one set of numbers different than the president's budget request. The House is completely, out in right field doing their own thing, with marking up bills that have no basis, will be no basis for law. Just, twiddling thumbs, wasting time. Tom Cole and Speaker Johnson have no path and no plan to meaningfully pass bills with bipartisan support. So if that continues to be their posture, then we're in for a long September. Our hope is that Republicans work with us in a bipartisan way, as we have always done, to fund government. Unless and until that happens, we're going to be in the same spot. We hope that they don't listen to Russ Vought and tune out bipartisanship. We think that there should be more bipartisanship. There haven't been any House Republicans, to my knowledge, who have disavowed those statements that the appropriations process should be more partisan, which was his comment. So until that changes, we're going to be in a position where they own everything that is happening in September if we lead toward a shutdown.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. It's clear that you all will be talking about how unpopular the reconciliation bill is, how bad the provisions are, but do you also think that it's important for you all to present a vision of what a Democratic majority would look like? Are there any policy proposals? Are there any agenda items that you will also pair with the criticism of the bill to offer a contrast to the American people of what it would look like if they gave you all the gavels back?
We plan to spend a lot of time talking about our affirmative vision for making life more affordable for the American people, for building an economy that actually works for everyday Americans. We believe in this country that when you work hard and play by the rules, you should be able to live the good life. Good paying job, good housing, good health care, a good education for your children, and a good retirement. That means that Republicans need to keep their hands off of Social Security and Medicare. That's not too much to ask. This is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. That when you work hard and you play by the rules, you can live the good life and experience the American dream. That's our vision for the type of country that we should be fighting hard to bring about. America is too expensive. And we need to make our country more affordable for hard-working American taxpayers.
Mr. Leader, what concern do you have that the conversation about Jeffrey Epstein, which has really dominated the Hill for the last 2 weeks, might overtake the messaging that you all are attempting to bring about the effects this bill would have on the American people? I mean, already we saw today, you were all talking about going out and talking to the American public, but at the same time, Congresswoman Clark made sure to start her remarks with conversation about Jeffrey Epstein. How do you balance that messaging?
Well, I'll yield to Whip Clark and Chair Aguilar, but the reality is that it's all connected from the standpoint of Donald Trump, his administration, and House Republicans have delivered nothing more than a government of the billionaires, by the billionaires, and for the billionaires. They've passed massive tax breaks for their billionaire donors. And in the context of this Jeffrey Epstein scandal and their refusal to share information to the American people, despite promising to do so, one must ponder the question, what are they hiding from the American people, and what billionaires, what well-connected donors, what elite people are they trying to protect? Why haven't Republicans released the Epstein files to the American people? It's reasonable to conclude that Republicans are continuing to protect the lifestyles of the rich and shameless, even if that includes pedophiles. That's a conclusion that if this continues, one may necessarily be compelled to reach. So it's all connected. Democrats are fighting to make life more affordable for the American people, to improve the quality of life for working families, middle-class folks, all those who aspire to be part of the middle class, hardworking American families, older Americans, our veterans, our families, the men and women of organized labor. This is what drives Democrats. But Republicans are focused on their billionaire donors. That was the centerpiece of the one big ugly bill, and it's what explains Republican refusal to release the Epstein files. Yeah.
Yeah, I started my comments with that today because that is why they're running home today. Because they don't want to answer a fundamental question that their own base is asking them. You promised us transparency around these files, now you are hiding them. And it all relates back to the same thing. Everything that House Republicans have done, everything this administration has done since Donald Trump took office is in defense of the elites. And who is paying the price for it? Whether it's with soaring debt, soaring insurance costs, denial of veterans' benefits, taking away food, school lunch programs, food, Meals on Wheels for our seniors. It's the American people. So the jig is up here, and this case, the Epstein case, has helped their own base see what's going on. That this is a con job, that they were never the center of the work that they are going to do here. If you don't already have a lot of wealth and power, you are not getting any attention from this Republican Party. And they will sacrifice the working people of this country for the benefit of the billionaire class. They've done it in their big ugly bill, and now they're doing it by running and hiding from their own campaign process, a promise to reveal these files. That's why we are in the situation that we are in today. They are literally running away from the needs of the American people in order to protect the very wealthy.
If I can get two things here. One, your reaction to Mike Lawler deciding to stay in Congress as opposed to the governor's race. Does that complicate New York 17? And as I looked back at your 100-day remarks, you promised a blueprint over the next 100 days as to what your agenda is. Is that going to be a single document? Have we seen that yet? What's that look like?
We look forward to sharing those ideas with the American people, consistent with what I've talked about in terms of our focus on making life more affordable for everyday Americans and driving down the high cost of living, protecting their health care and Social Security and the things that matter, and strengthening those things as we move forward. And we'll have a lot more to say about the actions that we would take as soon as we have the opportunity to govern in the majority around health care. We have a Medicaid and Medicare Matters Day of Action on July 30th, the 60th birthday of Medicare and Medicaid. We have a Social Security Day of Action on August 14th, the 90th birthday of Social Security. And we'll have a lot to say about our efforts to protect and strengthen Social Security. And then the following week, we have a Cost of Living Week of Action, where we'll focus on what we as Democrats would do to make life more affordable for the American people, and the fact that Republicans are actually making life more expensive. Healthcare will be more expensive for everyday Americans if you are able to have healthcare. Millions of people will be without healthcare. Tens of millions more are going to pay higher healthcare premiums, copays, and deductibles because of steps that the Republicans have taken in connection with the one big ugly bill. Utility costs are going up for the American people. All across America, because of steps taken that are toxic and extreme in nature by Republicans in connection with the one big ugly bill. The cost of groceries and goods is going up because of Donald Trump's reckless and random tariff policy that is imposing thousands of dollars of additional costs on the American people, and that will continue. So there is a lot to talk about during the August district work period, and we will draw a clear contrast between our vision related to building an affordable economy and the Republican efforts to hurt everyday Americans while rewarding billionaires and wealthy corporations.
Mike Lawler?
Yeah, and I'll let Democrats in New York and California flipped 7 seats in the last cycle. 4 of those were in New York. We plan on flipping the 5th in 2026, and the 17th congressional district will be a high priority, whether the current incumbent seeks re-election or chooses not to do so over the next few months.
I'll just say real briefly, I can't let the opportunity go. I feel bad for Mike Lawler and Zach Nunn. They made a critical mistake when they thought about their future aspirations. They asked Donald Trump what he thought, and he told them, sorry, you gotta run. John James, Andy Barr declared for higher office and just went. The other 2 said, hey boss, what do you think? And time again, that's the motto of House Republicans, which is if Donald Trump says jump, they say how high. That's the fundamental difference. As the leader mentioned, in New York and California, the last election, we picked up seats. We look forward to playing offense around the country because the American people know exactly who House Republicans are protecting and who they are fighting for. They know that health care is on the ballot. Health care is at stake. The rich and powerful are protected. That's what's going to be the fundamental difference next November.
Second row.
I want to ask about yesterday's appropriations meeting. Coming out of there, was there any sense that Democrats don't want to set red lines on appropriations yet, like there were in March?
We've made very clear that a partisan spending bill that comes out of the House of Representatives will do so without Democratic support. And Senate Democrats have made clear that the only path forward to reaching an enlightened spending agreement is one that is arrived at in a bipartisan way, because that is the path that Democrats are committed to in terms of meeting the needs of the American people related to their health, their safety, national security, and the economic well-being of everyday Americans. A partisan spending bill is dead on arrival in terms of securing significant Democratic support, or any Democratic support, in the House, and I believe that that is the case in the Senate as well.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Past comments from Mamdani resurfaced in which he implies that you were Islamophobic towards him, and he compared your words to those of segregationist George Wallace. What is your response to these comments, and will they be a topic of discussion when you guys meet at the end of this month?
We responded in the article that you're making reference to, and that response speaks for itself.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Just as you guys prepare to recess, the Committee on House Administration announced some new upgrades to member security, including an increased member allowance, which I know is something you and the ranking member called for. Do you feel these changes are sufficient? And because this is kind of a pilot program, do you believe they should be implemented long-term?
We arrived at an agreement that was bipartisan in nature, that involved the highest levels of House Republican and Democratic leadership, as well as the top leaders on the House Administration's Committee, led by Joe Morelli on the Democratic side. That is a substantial step in the right direction, but will be in effect, of course, for the balance of this fiscal year. Conversations are ongoing, in part based on the experiences that members on both sides of the aisle have when they're back home in their districts throughout the August district work period, as to what worked, what helped, and what other areas perhaps are ripe for enhancement. Third row.
So I wanted to ask, 6 months into Donald Trump's presidency, a lot of Democratic voters were upset with Democrats because they weren't fighting back enough. You know, at 6 months now, do you think Democrats are fighting back enough, or do you think there's more for you guys to do?
We continue to be in a more is more environment. That's more town hall meetings, more speeches, more rallies, more demonstrations, more sit-ins, more press conferences, speeches on the House floor, speeches on the Senate floor, site visits all across the country, steering and policy committee hearings which have been taking place here at the Capitol and across the country. We're going to be in a more is more environment until we can end this national nightmare on behalf of the American people. Go back to this side.
Is every member of the Democratic caucus fit mentally and physically to serve another term in Congress? And what role do you see yourself in playing in having conversations with members about retirement or their future here?
That's not a discussion that we have had at the moment with individual members who are going to make decisions about their future. And it's my expectation that those decisions will be based on what members conclude is in the best interest of the communities that they have been privileged to represent, as well as themselves, their families, and the values that they hold dear, that we are in the middle of defending on behalf of the American people. What is interesting to me, as Chair Aguilar indicated, is that Republicans clearly are running scared. And notwithstanding the desire of a member in New York or a member in Iowa to seek other office, because they know that their prospects for re-election are grim, given how disastrous things have been as a result of the Trump administration and the failures of House Republicans. They have been ordered by Donald Trump to seek re-election. In other words, Donald Trump has signed their political death sentence. And as has always been the case, they simply choose to bend the knee, even when it's not in the best interest of their own political future. Republicans are running scared. Every single data point illustrates that reality, including the fact that Republicans are trying to gerrymander in the middle of the decade the Texas congressional map to try to undermine the ability for the nation to have free and fair elections. It's all because Republicans are running scared. They have been a complete and total disaster, and the American people will hold them accountable next November.
Speaker Johnson today said he was disenchanted with Fed Chair Powell. I wonder what you make of these comments, and are you worried about President Trump setting a precedent if he does fire Fed Chair Powell?
To the extent Donald Trump chooses to fire Chairman Powell, who has done a good job on behalf of the American people and functioned independently, which is what the Federal Reserve is designed to do in terms of monetary policy, Donald Trump will continue his efforts, were he to fire Chairman Powell, to crash the American economy.
Leader Jeffries, thank you. Fox News is reporting that Tulsi Gabbard declassified a House report that they say shows that the Obama administration knew that there was no evidence that Putin was pressuring or he wanted to help elect Trump during the 2016 election, but pushed out that report anyway. What is your response to this?
I want to yield to Catherine and Pete on this, but is this what we're doing? Like, millions of Americans have lost their health care as a result of actions taken by the Trump administration and House Republicans. Children, veterans, and seniors will go hungry as a result of actions taken by House Republicans and the Trump administration. Everyday Americans are being hurt. Republicans have passed this one big ugly bill that will cause everyday Americans to be broke, sick, or hungry. Republicans are on the run. They can't even get their act together as it relates to releasing the Epstein files that every single one of the top leaders of the Trump Justice Department and the Trump FBI and the Vice President and the President himself promised to release. Republicans are on the run. They have done grave damage to the American people. And so when you have nothing to present that's affirmative to the American people, Republicans blame Barack Obama. It's laughable. And a spokesperson for President Obama released a statement that makes that clear.
Yeah, it's pathetic. It is pathetic. We have the head of intelligence just trying to worm her way back into the good graces of the White House. And why it is not just pathetic, but so dangerous and wrong-headed is that the American people are waving their arms and saying, we aren't making it in this country. And everything that the GOP is doing is making it worse. It is stretching family budgets that are already stretched to the breaking point. They don't want to talk about how can we cap the cost of childcare so people can afford to work and find childcare so they can get to their jobs knowing their kids are in a quality program. How come we're not talking about ways to help people put that down payment together for a house, how we can build housing in a way that is productive and creates American jobs and drives down the costs? How come they're not talking about helping our veterans who we know rely on our food programs and rely on the VA? You cannot cut tens of thousands of people from the Veterans Administration and look veterans in the eye and say, thank you for your service. We owe them better. And this incessant obsession with getting back in and staying in the good graces of the president has an incredible, dangerous toll for American families. They are the ones that pay the price for these lies and for this fidelity, not to the people of the United States, but to one person, which is Donald Trump.
I'm confident that the American people see through this. If a judge rules in a position that Donald Trump disagrees with, they are corrupt. They are terrible. If they rule in a way that he likes, then it is the best decision ever. And his default is blame President Obama, blame Secretary Clinton, blame President Biden. It's been 9.5 years since Barack Obama was in the White House. And as only as a distraction to more Jeffrey Epstein questions does Tulsi Gabbard throw a bone to Donald Trump. That's all this is about. It's a distraction to get back in his good graces after she was prevented from presenting national security information to Capitol Hill and kept out of some of the most important rooms where decisions occur. And it's an effort by Donald Trump to distract from the issues of the day, which is what are House Republicans, what are Republicans in Congress doing? Going on an August recess, having to face their constituents, not having town halls, cutting health care, cutting food security, threatening nursing homes. That's what this is about. And every other effort is just a distraction by Donald Trump to blame someone else.
Trump administration is a malignant clown show. It's a malignant clown show. And every single day, they prove that point. Last question.
A number of Democrat members met with Mahmoud Khalil yesterday. Are you on board with them having those meetings? And are you concerned at all that Republicans are going to weaponize this issue against Democrats in the midterms?
I have not spoken to any of the members who had that discussion. With respect to the immigration issue, more broadly, we believe that we must continue to secure the border. We believe that we have a broken immigration system, and it must be fixed in a comprehensive and bipartisan way. We also believe that this is a nation of immigrants. And as Democrats, we will continue to defend dreamers, farm workers, and hard-working immigrant families, and push back against the aggressive overreach by the Trump administration that has been unleashed on the American people. Thank you.
Thank you.